Hey there, fellow classic comic collectors. As always, I'm Scott Harris King, and today I'm going to be talking about the Fantastic Four movie, the 2025 version, Fantastic Four First Steps, which came out this summer. Just finally had a chance to see it now that it's on streaming. As I've mentioned several times, I haven't been able to get out of the house to do this sort of thing for a while, so I wasn't able to see it in the theater for health reasons, but I've watched it now that it's streaming, and I've got some thoughts on it. So, um, there's going to be a lot of spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to be spoiled, I suggest pausing the video, then watch the movie, and then immediately come back and watch the rest of the video. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to do that. Dot, dot, dot. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay. So, top level thoughts on it. I thought it was good. There's a lot of things that I really liked about it. There was a lot of things that I thought were just whatever. There was only one or two things that I didn't like. So I can't say it was great because it wasn't. It actually wasn't that exciting either. So for the most part, I would say it was sort of like, eh, but in a good way. And what I mean is this: there's a lot of stuff to like. So I loved the aesthetic. So this takes place on an alternate Earth, and the aesthetic there is sort of a retro 60s future vibe. So it looks like what the future was imagined to be in the 60s. So everything was very 60s in look and feel, but with futuristic technology advancements, presumably because of Reed Richards, and just everything about the design aesthetic, the colors, the sets, everything was just top notch. It just looked great. It was just everything about that was great. I also really liked the cast quite a lot. Thought the cast was excellent. I can say for me, I haven't seen the 1994 version. I've actually heard the pretty good things about it, other than the fact that there was no budget at all. So I haven't seen that, but I have seen, the 2000 whatever, 5 or whatever, the 2007, the two movies, Fantasy Four movies from the 2000s. I've seen most of the 2015 version at this point as well. For me, this is easily the best of the Fantastic Four movies. And it's not particularly close either. So, really a lot to love, a lot of nice nods to different continuity things. There was a lot of stuff for Fantastic Four fans and Marvel fans, even though we don't really see a lot of the villains and supporting cast members from Fantastic Four. They're mentioned a number of times, and there is some really cool stuff with Mole Man and Subterranea that was really good. So all of that stuff I really liked, and of course, I like that we have Galactus as the bad guy, and it's not goofy Cloud Galactus like the 2007 version. It's actually a great big guy stomping around the city, and being scary as hell. So uh, there was some quibbles I had with the way they made Galactus look. I actually wished he looked even more like the comic book. His outfit was they were making it look like machinery. And I missed a little bit of the color from the original. I wish there were some more splashes of color because it was all kind of flat. But can't really complain too much about the way they showed Galactus. So I mean, all of that was great. Now there's a lot of stuff that I thought was just okay, and that is most of the plot. Like, as much as I like the setting and the characters and the actors and Galactus, the story was, and the way it played out was just okay. It wasn't particularly exciting. My wife and I talked quite a bit after the movie, and she was like, it's just kind of mad. She wasn't sure if it was superhero fatigue, and I was like, well, for me, I don't have superhero fatigue because I love superheroes. Just take a look around. But I have a little bit of fatigue with this specific story, even though this is the best version they've put on film. Um, I've just seen this story so many times that there, and the way they told it was so sort of basic and straightforward. They were clearly trying to, stick to the comics and do it justice, and I appreciate that. But wasn't really a lot of excitement in the way they presented it. Weren't really any surprises per se. So the action and everything just kind of felt a little bit flat. Like the climax where they're fighting Galactus in the middle of New York City should be a a massive, exciting spectacle, and it was just sort of it was a bit draggy. Um, I didn't mind. I want to say there's a certain segment of online complainers that were just moaning about the fact that this version of Silver Surfer wasn't Norrin Rad, it was Shala Bal. And that didn't bother me at all. And I thought it was ultimately irrelevant to the story. I thought they could have done more with Silver Surfer. Even though I think overall this movie was superior to the 2007 version with the story of Galactus and Silver Surfer. In some ways, I think they did Silver Surfer a little bit better in that first movie. It had nothing to do with it being a male or female Silver Surfer. They just didn't give Surfer the thing that defines Surfer in the comics, which is that in the comics he rebels against Galactus because he sees the nobility in humanity, and he becomes sort of fascinated by that, and that's what sort of convinces him to change sides and try and save humanity. We don't really see Silver Surfer have that connection. There's a connection between her and Johnny Storm, but it's sort of barely sketched, and we just don't really see things. What we do get hinted at, and again, they did not show this nearly enough for it to really land. There's a hint that in the main part of the plot is that Galactus actually wants Franklin Richards. So Sue Storm is pregnant at the beginning with Franklin, and Galactus recognizes Franklin as having the power cosmic, and basically is like, Franklin can he's like, Franklin can kill me. If Franklin eats me, then I won't have to do all this crap anymore like I've been doing for billions of years. And so he's just looking for the sweet release of death by having Franklin basically sate his hunger and take over the role of Galactus, which Fantastic Four obviously don't want to have happen. And so there's a lot of stuff in the movie about parenthood and motherhood in particular, and the protectiveness of Sue. And there was a real connective thread missing between the flashback we get from Shala Bal, where we find out that she basically saved her planet by giving herself up to Galactus to become the Herald, so she could specifically save her young daughter, her child. And so it was a little bit of a weird decision to not have Shala Bal's connection with humanity be with Sue, who is going through the same decision-making process about motherhood and sacrifice, but instead with rando Human Torch. And so they set up this parallel between the two characters, between Silver Surfer and Invisible Woman, but don't actually connect the two. And so that, I think, was missing. So like there's a few things like that where it just felt too surface level. They had the pieces in place, so it was a little frustrating that they didn't give us more of the depth. I also it was a little bit hard for me. I don't have children for me to completely relate, intellectually sure, but I couldn't really emotionally relate with what Sue and Reed were going through in terms of having to decide whether to give up their child in order to save the planet. And there's a lot of decision making and agonizing and what to do and stuff like that didn't really, I don't know, it wasn't really for me, and I didn't find it that interesting. They framed it all in terms of the decision of a parent protecting the child, and my wife and I both felt there was more to the decision than that, because it's not that straightforward. Because they're not defeating Galactus, even if they give him up. They might be saving the planet, but they're not only dooming their son to this eternity of torment that Galactus has, but they're basically saving their planet at the cost of unleashing their son on the rest of the universe. So that doesn't really necessarily work for heroes either. So, but they didn't really get into any of those ramifications. I would say, like, for me, this is the biggest flaw of the movie, and an issue that I had that maybe it would land better for other people. I don't know, but everyone knows if you've watched my channel before that one thing I really dislike is baby versions of adult characters. So baby superheroes, but just in general, stories that revolve around small children, or like Franklin specifically. I don't actually mind Franklin as a character, but I don't like Franklin as a plot device. And he was the plot device for the movie. Everything revolved around Franklin. And I told my wife as the movie started, I was like, as soon as they started with the stuff about the pregnancy, I was like, I don't want this movie to be about Franklin because I'm just no interest in that sort of story. And it turns out that's actually what the story was about. So that was I think part of why I felt like it was just okay. Like everything was well done, and nothing, with one exception I'm about to get to, was actively bad. But it just wasn't necessarily for me. It wasn't as exciting as I wanted. It just wasn't the direction I wanted it to go. So like I recognized it was well done and I enjoyed the movie, but I didn't love it. There was one thing that really bothered me and I found super irritating and kind of derailed the middle part of the movie, which is Galactus has given them this ultimatum: hand over your child or I'm going to destroy the Earth, kill everyone on it. And then the Fantastic Four spend a month, because this is out in outer space, traveling back to the planet. So they got a month to think about what they're going to say and do when they get back to Earth. They get back to Earth and they're immediately pulled into a press conference, and it seems like they haven't done any thinking about how they're going to handle this, because Reed immediately is just like, Galactus is still coming to eat everything because the price of stopping him was too high. And they're like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, they wanted our child and we won't give them the child. So see what happens. And everyone, the whole, all of the Earth immediately turns on the Fantastic Four and is like, 7 billion people are going to die because, you don't want to give up your son. And I hate that kind of storyline. There's so many stories in comics where the public who loves us heroes then turns on the heroes, and the heroes become hated, and I just don't like those stories. I never enjoy those stories. But more to the point, it felt so dumb and unnecessary, because there was no reason to tell anybody that. Like, there was no reason to reveal that, for the characters to reveal that. There was only a reason for the screenwriters to have them reveal that, so they could have that kind of drama, where the first half of the movie everybody loves the Fantastic Four, and then everybody turns on the Fantastic Four because of this betrayal, right? It's something I didn't like anyway, but the way they got to that point didn't make any sense to me. We'd seen throughout the first half of the movie that Reed is the kind of slightly socially awkward scientist guy in the room, and Sue is actually the sort of public face leader of the Future Foundation, and she's talking to people in the UN and helping signing diplomatic treaties, and she's like out there, as the political social figure that for the Fantastic Four. So when they get off that spaceship for the press conference, she's had a month to think about how to handle this. And what she does is she just grabs the baby and takes off and leaves Reed to just talk about this while she hides the baby from the angry crowd. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. That didn't make any sense. It's not like she just gave birth 5 minutes ago. It was a month ago. So, like, they get off the thing. She's not even wearing her Fantastic Four outfit. Like, she's, like, um, wearing like a jumpsuit or something, like a boiler suit, and so it makes it seem like it just happened, and they haven't had time to think about anything. And maybe they didn't because there was some weird stuff with the black hole and time distortion, but that didn't seem to actually affect them. So I don't know. But anyway, the point is, like, what should have happened realistically is that Sue goes and gives a press conference and says, "We tried to negotiate with Galactus, we failed. So Galactus is still coming, but we're working on Plan B," and just leave it at that. There was no reason to mention anything about the child to anybody, and it was just the dumbest thing they could possibly have done, and it only made sense in terms of a plot contrivance. So that was the only thing in the movie that really irritated me, like that I thought was actively bad. There were missed opportunities and things that didn't quite connect, but for the most part, I thought the movie was good. It was solidly done. So many good things. It was just kind of middle of the road. It just wasn't exciting for me, but like that was the only thing where I was like, "Come on, guys." Um, Talk a little bit about the post-credits scene. So they jump 4 years ahead. So now Franklin's 4 years old, and we get this post-credits scene where all of a sudden Franklin is Sue's like, "What's happening?" She goes to do something, comes back, and is like, "Something's off." And she comes around the corner, and Franklin is talking to Doctor Doom, who has appeared in their house. I don't like this at all. I mean, we know that Doctor Doom is coming for something that is going to set up Secret Wars. It suggests to me that Franklin is kind of going to take the place of the Beyonder in some way for that storyline, and then it's going to have something to do with Doctor Doom using, you remember in Secret Wars, in the 1984 Secret Wars, where Doctor Doom absorbed the Beyonder's power, right? After the Beyonder created Battle World and pulled all the heroes in. I think this suggests to me that there's going to be a version of this where Doctor Doom uses Franklin's power to create a battle world where it brings in the characters from all these alternate universes in some kind of conflict with each other. I don't know. And I don't like that at all. I don't want this entire block of phase of the MCU to revolve around Franklin Richards. I don't want this to be the Heroes Reborn universe, where it turns out that Franklin Richards created the entire universe with his mind. I just don't want Franklin Richards as this plot device at the center of everything. I don't mind him as a character over here in the background. It's still a bit of a puzzle how the Fantastic Four fits into everything else. We saw in the post-credit scene for Thunderbolts at the beginning of the year, where what appears to be the Fantastic Four spaceship has arrived in the main MCU 616 universe. We don't know who's on the ship, and that's all we saw of that. That it does not happen in Fantastic Four, so it does not connect the two. We see the ship because they fly it around, but we don't see them going to the 616 universe. So we're gonna have to wait for the next Avengers movie to come out, Avengers Doomsday, to see how the Fantastic Four get from their post-credit scene to the other post-credit scene to tie that together. But I'm kind of wary about it because, not to say it won't be good, but it's not the direction I want to see things go. Overall, I thought it was good. I did like it better than Superman. I can't say that, like, the things that I disliked about Superman, I disliked more than the things I disliked about Fantastic Four. And the things I liked about Superman, there were parts of Superman that were more exciting and kind of more fun than anything in Fantastic Four. But that movie was so uneven, and Fantastic Four was very even. It was a little too much of a flat line. But it flatlined at a higher overall level than Superman. So for me, I think it was better than Superman. I probably would have given Superman a 5 out of 10. Fantastic Four, I think, is more like a 6 out of 10. So I do think it's a little bit better. It's not great, but it's good. It's definitely worth watching. And if you're a Fantastic Four fan, I don't think you'll be unhappy with it. You might be disappointed that it wasn't more exciting, but I don't think you'll be unhappy with it. But maybe I'm wrong. So you can tell me. Let me know down below. What did you think of the Fantastic Four movie? I'm curious to see your thoughts, and I'll see you next time.